Homeschooling first grade is one of my favorite ways to bond with my younger students. I just finished homeschooling my fifth first grader. So I have 7 children and I still have 2 more kids that need to go through first grade. So I kind of have a system in place, and also I have learned a lot from my own mistakes and also those of my friends about really expecting the wrong things from our first graders and how that can actually cause a lot of friction and a lot of frustration. So I'm going to share all of those today. We will go subject by subject through what a first grader needs to encounter for that first year in a Charlotte Mason homeschool. So my name is Joy. Like I said, I have 7 children, and let's get started. In all of Charlotte Mason's volumes, she tells us that we have 3 instruments at our disposal to educate children. We have the atmosphere, that is our environment and our attitude. We have our discipline, which is our habits, and we have our life. So when we're looking at our first grader, I want us to think about what our own attitude is toward the work that they need to do, specifically their reading, writing, and arithmetic work. Often what I find is parents get really frustrated, myself included, if a child is not progressing at the right clip. But I think it's helpful to remember that learning to read, learning numeracy, learning how to write, all of those things are developmental, and that sometimes we're asking a child to do something that they just haven't gotten old enough to be able to do. And a great example of this is potty training or learning to walk. A normal child, right, there's a range for when those things can happen, and sometimes the range is like within 2 or 3 years. If you're looking at a child who's crawling, usually that's because maybe the child's really big, so they're not able to move their body, through space as easily as a really tiny baby who started walking at 9 months. So just having an understanding of our children as individuals, as really their whole person, that they are physical and they are also spiritual, and we want to nurture both their physical and their spiritual needs as we are guiding them through, right? Because we are their guide. The other thing I think is really easy to miss is the importance of our routines. And this is where Charlotte Mason would put this in the discipline category. Does the child know what's expected of them throughout the week and each day? Is the routine consistent? Is it something that they can depend on and that they know what is expected of them? I see a lot of parents try to be very relaxed in their approach for when they're going to get their schooling done. And what this does is it causes a lot of confusion and conflict with the child because they're not ready, or they didn't realize that this was time for working. They thought it was time for playing. But a routine can cut down on a lot of friction between really the whole family, because everybody knows what is happening at a specific time, what is expected of me, and then we are able to be intentional about our instruction. Okay, it's time for math. Get out your math book. It's not time for playing right now. Get out your pencil. Oh, they're going to fall on the floor. Well, that's actually not what we should be doing. You need to sit up and you need to join me. Let's start off with a game. So this actually leads us into education as a life, that often I think we approach our subjects with a militant perspective. It was boring for us. Math just has a bunch of numbers and we just have to work out the arithmetic. But what you find as you start to get a little bit deeper into classical education, and Charlotte Mason in particular, is that there's a lot of enjoyment in these subjects, and that a lot of times we would consider that you would be playing. We're playing with words in grammar. We're playing with numbers in math. Often you can use beads or even chess pieces. And there's so many different things that you can use for a child to count and play a game with, where they actually don't realize that they're learning about numbers through counting real items. How many pieces of silverware are in the drawer? How many calico critters do you have? How many pieces of red Legos do you have? You know, those are things that while we think, oh, you can do that, guys, it counts as part of the school day. And we have the opportunity as home educators to make it more fun. The reason it wasn't fun for us in public school, or the reason it's not usually fun, is because there's really this classroom management system that has to happen because there's so many students. But since we don't have that problem, even me, I have 7, but I'm still able to pull in some of those games so that the children are able to engage, and it works their mind, it engages their mind in a way that makes them wake up and go, oh, this is actually fun. This is interesting. I want to engage now. So we start with reading. In my homeschool, first grade, reading is my top priority. If I get nothing else done, we go through the lessons in How to Teach Your Child to Read in 100 Easy Lessons. And I bought this for like $7 used, and I've used it for all 5 of my children. And then we use some Bob books as a supplement. And then once they get through this book, then we like to go through these little readers. This one is The Adventures of Little Bear, and I love this book because it has a sweet story that also helps strengthen their reading. So once they're able to get through this book, this is kind of the next step. And then I have a whole basket of books on this level that the child can just pick from, and I do not care which one they choose. When we are teaching our children how to write, starting to spell and starting to actually write words, it's really good to give them something to play with. And these cards are a great way for children to build with letters. And we have this beautiful wooden set. This is the box, and then these are the wooden letters that come with them. And you'll see how pretty they are, and they're all wooden. What we do is the child sits down with her cards, and I have them on this nifty ring so that they don't go hither and yon. And then I just tell her, okay, you're just going to build 5 words. And then she sits and she builds her 5 words, and then she's getting to practice building the words, and then she looks on the back and she practices reading that sentence. And that's giving her a way to engage with those letters. That's starting to bring it more deeply into her soul and giving her that fluency that we want. But also it's giving her something fun. It's fun to play with letters like that. It's fun to build. And then we actually have this mat that goes with it. And she just lets the letters walk along that little line right there. And that's just a really special kind of a rite of passage for a new or emerging reader. Next, we have writing. After they've done their reading practice, then we're going into writing. And I really like these Handwriting Without Tears books. I also use the Pen Time series, but this particular student needed additional practice in the same level, and it would be demoralizing to have them repeat the exact same workbook. So I love these because it helps get them the practice on not only just their letters, but also they're starting to write sentences. And this is, again, one of those things that you have to use your discretion on how tired the child's hand gets. Sometimes I will start with 1 line, and then we'll build up to 1 page. I don't assign more than 1 page a day. Next, we move into math. And my preference is the Beast Academy series. We start with 1A, and what I love about the 1A book is that it is both a workbook, and this really is the gamification of mathematics. They have figured out how to make math enjoyable and interesting and really grab the child's attention, because they're actually having to think. It's not just rote memorization. They're playing with shapes. They're playing with numbers. They are giving they're giving them puzzles. So this is kind of the greater than, less than problems. And then and then they change it up. They're kind of, they present a concept in one way, and then they present the same concept in another way, so that you're getting hit from all sides, and then they give you that opportunity to play with the concept. And this is unique in, I feel like, classical education, in that we want people who love the subject teaching our children that subject. And that is what you get with the Beast Academy series. I have not seen anything else more rigorous, nor have I seen anything else more challenging and delightful. Children who engage with Beast Academy online, if they get through 1A all the way through 5D, like that can be all of their mathematical training that they need to really function. So for us, we have children who are going to slow roll the one series. So each level has 4 different sections, A, B, C, and D. And what's great about it is this one is designed for you to do shoulder to shoulder with your child seated at the table. And once they graduate from the one section, then they can start doing Beast Academy online, and that one has videos connected to it. I think the one section has videos, but I feel like I don't want my younger students to be on a computer screen yet. I feel like they need that human interaction until they have gotten their numeracy a little bit more established. And once they're on level 2, then they can start using the online stuff. And I actually have another video all about how to use Beast Academy online and why we love it. Next, we move to science. And the best way for a child to be introduced to science is through keeping a nature journal. And the age of 6 and first grade is when that begins. It's a very casual, shoulder to shoulder. They're starting to take things that they have found out in nature, and then they're starting to put them in their journals. It's developing the habit of seeing something and then studying it more deeply, and then placing that information in their journal so that they can keep a record. I actually have a free How to Teach Keeping a Nature Journal workshop going on. You can go check that out in the description below. So in addition to their nature study, we're also reading stories about nature. And this is a great place to start. James Herriot's Treasury for Children. They are beautiful stories about animals. And you might say, well, that's not a science book. But we want living stories that give us an idea of the character of the animal or how people have engaged with the animal. We're not really talking about facts and figures in this context. It's really more of a nature lore and trying to really shape their heart, really capture their imagination for a love of creation. We do some study. We do a little bit of special study where we will talk about the parts of the plant or the parts of the tree, but that's a little bit more relaxed. And then in my home, because we have older students, the younger students just pick that up as we go, and it's nothing that I have to do formally. Next, we move on to history, and history is taught through biographies. And biographies can be just a basic picture book. So this is the George Washington biography by Cheryl Harness. I love all of her biographies that are beautiful. I mean, they're just beautifully illustrated. And they give a wonderful representation of the person, the character, a little kind of a brief overview of who they were. And then some of them even have maps, yes. So they have maps in them about where the person lived and what important things were going on at that time. The other ones that are really good are the Dallaire biographies. Lots of different websites recommend those as well. And I would say they are both wonderful. Another biography set is the Brown Paper School U.S. Kids History. And this is, instead of being a full biography on one person, it has small stories about the time period, specifically, like these are all American history stories. And this particular one, a New American Nation, it has lots of beautiful stories about the kind of right after 1776 and the Declaration of Independence. So this is really just a great kind of, just if you're just going to get one book, this would have a lot of that information in it. Another great history book is, of course, 50 Famous Stories Retold. And then this is a little bit more world history, and also like it kind of takes you through time. But the stories are really, really short. This is the story of William Tell, and it's just 2 pages. So this could be, 5 minutes of reading, and that is perfect for a short attention span if you are trying to build up your child's stamina for listening to read alouds. You can read while maybe they're playing in the sand tray, and then after you do your reading, they can draw a picture in their narration notebook. And finally, we have the arts. We have nursery rhymes. These are so wonderful for small children. I also love the Tomie DePola Mother Goose rhyme book. It's perfect for a 6-year-old, perfect for a first grader who needs just to be introduced to those beautiful rhymes, and they start to take them on for themselves. They're a wonderful place to look for a recitation for the child. And that is another part of their education, is that morning time component. And the last 2 we have is art. So art appreciation or picture study. These art for children books are a great kind of all-in-one. If you don't want to get the prints, because they do have large-scale prints inside, and then they have a nice explanation of the pictures as well. So I found that this was really helpful if I was really overwhelmed about what to do. I just grab this book off the shelf, pick out whichever artist I wanted to do, read through it, and then I like to leave the book out and open to one of the pictures throughout the week. And that makes a very simplified picture study. And last but certainly not least, we have Sir William Shakespeare. This particular version is rewritten by Tina Packer, and it is called Tales from Shakespeare. And I like it because it has some of the quotes directly from Shakespeare's plays. It usually takes us 2 or 3 sittings to get through one. I thought it was going to be more illustrated than it was. It is not. It just has the one illustration at the beginning of the play. But what I really like about it is it gives us the list of the characters that, this isn't all the characters in the original play, but this is all the characters that they've pulled out for this retelling. And the retelling gives us the story arc. It just helps us understand the main points of the story, and it's a great way to introduce Shakespeare to anyone, especially mom. And what we do is we take the list of the main players that they have right here, and we draw pictures of each person, so that while we are listening, the kids what they'll do is if somebody dies, then they'll X out their eyes, or if something funny happens, like with Midsummer Night's Dream and Bottom gets the donkey head, then the children will draw on the donkey head. So it's just another way for them to respond and engage with the story as you're reading. And for the young ones, I like to draw just a little person and help them, and then they color it in. It makes it very, very manageable. So the last thing I just want to point out as we are teaching our first graders is the importance of understanding the plan and understanding the principles around the subjects that you're teaching, and just having that discernment on when to push them a little bit beyond what is comfortable and when to understand that they have had enough. And that's just the only thing that a mom can know. And sometimes we learn it through trial and error. Sometimes we realize, oh, you actually had more energy and I just needed to change what we were doing, and then we could have come back to that. So being very mindful of how long our lessons go, really wanting to keep those early lessons at 5-10 minutes, and then starting to expand over the course of that first grade year where they can sit and listen for 15 minutes. Each child is different, and everyone's going to need a little bit of a different technique when trying to stretch them, trying to get them to grow, trying to cultivate their sense of attention, that habit of attention that we're really working toward with a Charlotte Mason homeschool. And then remembering that as we do these things, it is shaping them. These are things that feed their soul. These are the things that build up and point them toward the right path of virtue, that they might understand what is good and love what is true and be drawn to what is beautiful. And we want that for our children. So thanks so much for watching today. That's all I have. I'll see you next time.